April 12th, 2023. I'm going to consider chapter 28 of Genesis in an Afro-centric take of this scripture and document this for myself for future research. There are three parts in this chapter. The first part is where Jacob goes to Padan-aram. I don't know how to pronounce this, but that's probably the case. And then there is a vision of a ladder that um, Jacob has, and then Jacob makes a vow. So there are three sections for chapter 28. And the reason why Jacob goes to Padan-aram is that his father um, told him that he should not take wife from the daughters of Canaan, and he should go to Padan-aram to the house of um, his mother's sister to get a wife from there. And this is again that something that comes again and again, starting from Abraham. Abraham married his sister, I would say half sister, and then um, there was Isaac. Isaac ended up marrying his niece, and Isaac is sending now his son Jacob to go marry his uncle's daughter, right? You see these patterns of um, the descendant of Abraham going back to marrying their own family. And there is a history at the same time of limited birth rates within those situations, starting with Abraham and Sarah. And then there was Isaac and Rebecca. They had the same issue. And we'll see how it goes with Isaac. Jacob embarks on this journey as well to go find wife there. So it is just weird that these aspects are not talked about in secular um, religious or spiritual Christian um, movement, which it in itself is not encouraged later on in other scriptures because it just don't make sense. One of the explanations that I could come up with is that these individuals were not like just mere mortals. Their genetic makeup was way different than what we have because with um, the phenomenon of epigenetics, genetic material changes based on experience. So it could be that these beings were really high up that could interbreed that way, and they will not have these malformations, their birth defects that are common when people of the same family interbreed. The other thing is that it could be that the lack of procreation or being um, fertile in this case for the women was probably related. It was probably um, miscarriages that happened multiple times, and these women could not, carry um, their pregnancy to term. And that could be an explanation. But whether it's true or not, I don't know. But the truth is that there is a pattern of these people just marrying their sisters, their cousins, which just it's disgusting, to be honest. But who are we to judge what God has blessed, or the Lord in this case? Anyway, now Jacob goes and he gets to a place where he has a vision of a ladder, and in this vision, he sees the angels coming uh, up and down on the ladder in the heavens, and he could see God um, because he says in verse 16, and Jacob awakened out of his sleep, and he said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. And he says that he was able to see God in that interaction. So, what does that mean? Um, First of all, for the first part of interbreeding, that is something that is not really current in the African or melanated traditions because, you know, the black woman has shown to be very resourceful in terms of keeping the world or having the diversity in procreation. It is the only woman who can actually give birth to every other race in the world. And it is a disservice that we do to ourselves when um, black women, for whatever reason, move away from the black man to form a unit that is able to contend with the elements that are against our motherland, against our being, so to speak. And you can see that it is incumbent upon ourselves to look at these things in a way that is um, suggestive that we value that and we feel our continent because the game is to make sure that there is a limitation in the birth rate in Africa, and you can see every um, gift or aid that is given to Africa is comes with a family planning agenda to make sure that we do not do that. But that's not us. That's not who we are. So that's the take there. As far as the latter is concerned, and this is something that I've heard from other sources, is that these moments of clarity and accessing um, higher dimensions while living this three-dimension world has been a technology or a natural thing that people back then or individual back then would do. And this is an episode where really Jacob is tripping and he's able to instantly access that higher level of consciousness to see the spiritual realm and see how they go up and down. It also suggests that there is a movement between, there is a link or a ladder between these dimensions, and they could be ladder. And if you look at the DNA uh, form itself, it's twists, but really it's like a ladder. And it could be that the information to be able to access those realm are within us. And it is really also a disservice when um, we have lost that because, you know, nature has provided means of accessing that through plants. You know, people will talk about weed, but in other tradition, like um, in Latin America or in the Amazon, they have the ayahuasca, which is a concoction of um, you know hallucinogenic products that are able to make you travel to the other realm and feel that unity between everything, all realm, all world, and just be in a godlike situation, which has been erased from our traditions. Growing up, there was this practice that we used to hear about, the Kimbilikit, and I think I did some research about it. And it was really these rites of initiation that happen for young men to go into the wilderness or in the forest, and they will have this portion. They will get circumcised. They will really be get introduced to manhood, and those were initiation that kept the secret or the mystery of accessing this realm when we were ready to be able to build our societies, knowing these moments of unity or moments of conquering our limitations and fear. It was told that these kids will go out 14 to 17 to go out in the bush and kill, an animal and come back as a man. And those were initiation that allowed to keep those realities, to keep that technology or that mystery alive. But then in the Congo, since the war in, 1996, 1997, all of these things got erased. There are remnants of it, and all the leaders that were made leaders made sure that the rituals that were there were labeled to be demonic and satanic and all the things that you can think of. And it is incumbent upon us to really look at these things as very valuable, because if today you were to tell someone, that anybody from any culture will tell that they were able to dream and they had a ladder and they could see God and all that, everybody would say you're crazy. But that is if there's someone else. But because it is here, we can see that the code is there, that we can still access these realms. But we just have to make sure that we believe that we have that capacity. Also, I'll think that colonization did not help, because the biggest lie, while it was not to make the black men feel inferior, I think the biggest lie was to make other races believe that they were superior. And we have bought into that, whereas it's absolute lie, because there are scientific evidences and just lived experiences to say that at least all, and as they say, it is self-evident that all men are created equal. Let accept that. And we have shown that not only can we vibrate at the same frequency and master these technologies that they put out there, but there is a deliberate effort to limit our access to this and our understanding to our own material that was there for us to be able to access this realm and probably be able to travel differently than what is provided today with the commercial uh, enterprise. So very interesting to see that there are technologies out there that are within Africans that have not even been developed, because the world has moved on without us, right? We didn't contribute much, and the black people or melanated people who have contributed to scientific discoveries, all of these was done in the name of corporations that did not hold African interests in high regard. On the contrary, they were developing these technologies to come and spoliate Africans' resources, and which continues to be done today. So all the brains that have, you know, embraced the way of discovery as we know it now, whether they came from African or people of African descent, they have not served Africa. In the contrary, they've destroyed Africa one way or another. And we have a big responsibility in the destruction of things as they were back then, because we cannot just put everything just on the backs of other nations. We have played a role, and we can play a role now in rediscovering this knowledge, because it's there. The technology is there. You can see here, Jacob was all instantaneously able to travel and leave this realm, and we put it in a metaphysical way most of the time, but it's most likely that these things are things that we can access, but we just don't believe in ourselves. The third part is where Jacob makes a vow, and the vow was that since he has gotten confirmation that the Lord was with him, he made a vow to give the tenth of whatever he gets to the Lord. How, I don't know, but this is really the first part, as far as I'm concerned, where tithing is explicitly expressed in the Bible. And it started with Jacob making that vow, but no one has done it so far. The tenth being, just the tenth of tithing is the tenth of your belonging. And that's pretty much where we are. How can we leverage that? I think it's understanding that we owe to our traditions, to our ancestors, a certain kind of respect. That may not be the entire gain of what we've gotten, but if we can give back the tenth of what we have to uh, be thankful for the traditions that have made us survive despite the multiple attacks on the African man and woman, um, it is something that can really help us, revive and get out of the ashes as we were burned alive through these expeditions. And hopefully, this is something to be instituted in a constructive way rather than something that uh, becomes a spoliation of the poor. In Africa, especially, I do not understand why churches have to take the tenth of their poor church members to serve as something that will help them thrive, buy jets. And there's this Nigerian song that talks about pastor don't want to go heaven because they will they will collect the tithing, and with that they will go buy an armored vehicle. They will be in the armored vehicle with their family, and the guards and everybody else are in regular cars. And when they get attacked, it's the armored vehicle that survives. Why is the pastor not wanting to go to heaven? Because he's preaching that to go to heaven. And it's the tenth that he has collected from the poor churchgoers that he's serving to protect himself. Why do we get so blind to thieving instead of tithing correctly? Our kings and traditional leaders in Africa are becoming like beggars of these governments that were put in place by the powers that invaded and wanted to take it away. And we choose to reward those ones. And I believe this is not politically correct to say and probably dangerous, but that's the case. Why don't we use the tenth of our product, our generation, to enforce and empower those traditional leaders who are actually the reasons why we're still here? Because if they did not fund, if those institutions were not there, I'm telling you, we wouldn't be here. And it's not over. It's coming unless we take concrete measures and make a vow that we will provide the tenth of our effort to strengthening our foundation, which is our tradition, which has built us and has guaranteed us to be with us wherever we go. So that's chapter 28. We're going to go to 29 next time. And with that, good night.